In my opinion, we need to come back as soon as possible for democratic normalization. We face, since the Dilma Rousseff impeachment, we see a lot of noise in the political process. We need to go back to the elections and see who wins this project for Brazil.
I'll talk now to the chief economist of Gradual Investimentos, André Perfeito, about some forecasts for the second semester.
Well, Brazil is facing right now a very difficult moment with a political turmoil, so to speak, that it's very serious. We have the current president, Michel Temer, is already facing charges in justice, so it's very, how can I say, very tricky to talk about the second semester. But some questions or some issues about Brazil economy is are somehow distant from the political mess. What I want to say, what's my point about that? We had already adjustment in real wages in Brazil. We had a very strong economic depression in 2016 and 15, and real wages fell very fast in Brazil. So that's bad news in one hand, but in another hand, we have inflation that's under control. We can see right now that the Brazilian Central Bank, despite all the noise that came from Brazil, is going to deliver a lower interest rate. My forecast by the end of 2017 for the Brazilian main interest rate, the Selic rate, is 8.5%. My forecast is a little bit lower than the median of the market consensus, but we're going to have a lower inflation also. Perhaps we're going to have a 3% inflation rate in Brazil. That's something that didn't happen since 1998 in Brazil. So it's a very low inflation. And the economic activity in Brazil for 2017, it's going to be very stable. So my forecast for 2017 is 0.1% increase in real terms of the Brazilian GDP. So the political, it's not even a mess, it's a nonsense that we're facing, like a strange movie that we're facing right now in Brazil. But somehow the economy is have a self-motivate vector. So we don't need too much from the politics right now. So that's the good news, that the economics is doing their job by their own.
We have an optimistic scenario, but the consumption is low. And what if the consumption rise? Well,
what was the master plan, so to speak, from Temer and our minister Meirelles? What they tried to deliver for Brazilian economy? They tried to make a fiscal adjustment in the long run, so they changed the constitution and make some ceiling for the Brazilian spending. And when they did that, the expectation is that the long-term interest rate fell. When the interest rate fell, the investment in the present times could start to increase. That was the plan, so to speak. But the investment is not going to happen for two main reasons. One is one that you already said, that we don't have demand in the Brazilian economy. The households' consumption is the lowest level in many years, and also we have the companies already made a lot of investments in the previous years. So you have idle capacity in Brazilian economy very high right now. There are many machines that are stopped. So the businessmen won't make any investments in this scenario. But again, as the inflation is very low in Brazil right now, and the interest rate, the Selic interest rate is falling very fast, it's very likely that in 2018, we're going to have a real interest rate around 4 or 5% in Brazil, and it can make boost some energy in the Brazilian economy. But in 2017, we have a very serious problem with the families, the households, and companies' balance sheets. We had a lot of debt in companies that took a lot of credit to make a growth in 2013, 14. And the households also have a lot of debt because they start to consuming everything they needed. So what we need to do right now in 2017 is clean so to speak, the balance sheet from households and companies.
And what is the magic of keeping the confidence with this scenario, this political crisis? And what about the investor abroad?
Okay, it's very difficult to keep optimistic about the Brazilian economy. There is no secret about that. But somehow, as a Brazilian, someone abroad won't understand what I'm talking. We are somehow used to that mess, so to speak. I'm not happy seeing that. It's very sad. But we already know that the Brazilian economy is stronger than the political situation that we have right now. And when you see the investor, the foreign investor in Brazil, we see that they are coming to Brazil. If you see the direct investment, foreign investment in Brazil is around $4 or $5 billion per month. For a good reason, Brazil is cheap right now. If you have a crisis, the price of assets need to drop. So they are trying to see some good deals to do in Brazil. Here at the brokerage house that I work, we have a lot of private credit, and we see the demand from foreigners to see, show me what you have in your shelves. I want to see new products to invest. Of course, because in the United States and also in Europe and also in Japan and other countries, the real interest rate is very low. So how do we keep optimism about the Brazilian economy? We need to understand that the economic tissue, the economic situation had already made some adjustments. The main adjustment was the real wage that climbed very fast during the left-wing government of PT and Lula and Dilma. The real wage climbed very fast. This real wage dropped a little. When it dropped, the inflation got under control, and now the interest rate is falling. So we are making some adjustments in the Brazilian economy. And about the future, Brazil, it's an amazing country. We need to remember that our return, our profit margins in Brazil, we don't have that anywhere in the world. If you have the highest real interest rate in the world, it means that we have also the higher profit margin in the world. So we're going to take some time, but we're going to survive this political situation in Brazil, and we need to wait for 2018 when we're going to have elections in Brazil. That's going to be a real turning point in the Brazilian economy.
And before the last political scandals, Brazil was running to be even cheaper due to the foreign exchange. In the scandals, they move the currency here. Well,
when we talk about the Brazilian currency, it's strange because real, it's a very strange currency when we compare to our peers, like the Mexican peso, the South African rand, or the lira, the Turkish lira. Why? Because the Brazilian economy is so big and so liquid that imagine that you are in an asset in New York or London or Frankfurt, and you want to be short or long in emerging market currency. You don't do that with Mexican peso. You do that with the Brazilian real, because the Brazilian real have it's a deep market. We have a lot of liquidity here. So the Brazilian currency fluctuate very closely related with the commodity price. So what I want to say about that, perhaps we have a very serious political crisis in Brazil, but real can get stronger in that period because we have a stronger commodity price. So it's strange when you see, even with our stock market here in Brazil, as we are the most liquid and very sophisticated financial market in the emerging market, it's easier for someone in, as I said, New York, London, Frankfurt, Paris, Rome, whatever, Shanghai, to do business with our assets. So we need to have some careful when we do this correlation with political crisis and our currency. Brazil is too big, and we have a very specific situation. We have a very specific position in the emerging market world.
Are you also optimistic with the GDP?
Well, no. For 2017, for sure I'm not, because my forecast is 0.1% for the Brazilian GDP in 2017. Why do you believe that? Because first, the investment won't happen, because we have the demand of households are very low right now, and also you have a lot of idle capacity, or the companies have machines that are stopped, so they won't invest right now. So the investment won't work. The households, as I said before, we have adjustment in real wages of the families, so they're not going to spend more. The Brazilian government, they are trying to control their spending, so the government spending won't be very good. And if you see our external sector, perhaps we can have some relief because we're going to export more, because the word for raw commodities is good right now, and also we're going to import less because we have a very big crisis in Brazil right now. So, but it won't be enough to change the situation of the Brazilian economy. The Brazilian Central Bank just released in the last quarter inflation report in Brazil that they believe that the investments is going to drop 0.6% in 2017. But again, once we do this movement with lower interest rates and we clean the balance sheets of households and companies, and we have a real interest rate below 6% in real terms, it's a magic number in Brazil, because when you have interest rates lower than 6%, pension funds and some institutional savers, they need to deliver 6% in real terms. So they need to go to riskier assets. So the private equity start to move a little bit more in Brazil. It's very likely that 2018 we have a better situation. My forecast is 2.8%. But André, what about the political crisis that we're seeing? What's going to happen in 2018? In my opinion, we need to come back as soon as possible for democratic normalization. We face, since the Dilma Rousseff impeachment, we see a lot of noise in the political process. We need to go back to the elections and see who wins this project for Brazil. Is it going to be a left-wing project? Can be a right-wing project? I don't know, but what I know that some adjustment in Brazil economy, and again, the major adjustment in the Brazilian economy was the real wages that climbed very fast during the PT administration, especially in Lula. They need to curb a little bit. When they curb a little bit, the situation is going to be more easygoing to administrate for the Brazilian economic tissue.
André Perfeito, thank you so much for joining us again. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Luciane Miranda to Dukascopy TV.